2, 1. And we're going to head into the bopping section.
Got the bop.
Hello and welcome to the HR Data Labs Brown Bag Lunch. My name is David Turecksy. I am your host, alongside my host, best friend, co-host, partner in crime at salary.com, Dwight Brown. Hello, Dwight Brown.
Hello, David Turecksy.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm ready for the weekend.
Well, I am as well. The dog's snoring behind me, so he's definitely ready. But
we're going to hear it come through the microphone.
It probably will. But I'm excited today. Do you know why?
No, why?
We have up with us a very special guest, Yves Lermusiaux. Did I say it right?
Yeah, that's correct.
From WOPA.ai. Yves, how are you?
I'm really good and excited to be part of the podcast.
We are as well. But before we get into the nitty and gritty of the podcast, first, we have to ask you about you. Who is Yves, and what do you do at WOPA?
Yeah, no, thank you. Look, I grew up in Belgium, studied physics, philosophy, and then economics. And then I say, what shall I do with my life? And that in HR technology, and specifically recruiting technology, we're working mostly on, you see, in the ATS world of optimizing the efficiencies, but very quickly we focused on optimizing the outcome, essentially asking what makes a great hire. And lately with WOPA, turn the question using generative AI and asking more the questions about what makes a great career. And that's really what I'm spending my time on.
And that's exactly what our podcast is going to be about today. But first, what is one thing you did, the last thing you did for the first time?
With AI, there are lots of firsts, right?
No, not about AI. It's about you, Yves. About you.
About you.
But one thing that I did personally, but using some AI tech that was, I think, impacting, was the fact of chatting with Aristotle. As you understand, I studied philosophy, so Aristotle is obviously a special place in Greek philosophy. And when you can, specifically, I was asking about the type of friendship. Now, friendship is important in life, and I remembered that Aristotle had different categories. And so I did this little chat. There are a number of sites out there, and it was quite impactful. So having digital companions like that, historical figures or not, it's something that can definitely impact your life.
Was there a specific technology used, or was it just like ChatGPT 4.0, or?
I think that one was a character.ai, if I remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So everybody, for your information, Yves' website is WOPA, WOPA.ai. I'll type it into the comments later. And the one you just mentioned was character.ai, which is not associated with WOPA.ai.
Nothing to do with it.
But it's good to know, because both Dwight and I are actually doing a lot of experimentation with AI lately, whether it's education or improving our skills or trying to find practical uses of AI for what we do. So, we're all swimming in it these days.
And you should, because that's really transforming the world of work. And that's a little bit the impetus of us starting WOPA, because we saw that the world of work is changing dramatically. So how can we, all of us, finding still a best career, but at the same time making sure we enjoy what we're doing? So that's what WOPA stands for, is work path to work passion. And it's really the passion side that we're excited about.
Okay.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I wondered where the name came from. I was going to ask you, but you had the mental telepathy going on.
Well,
do it.
we're definitely geeks of the same feather, because a lot of us, especially the people who listen to this podcast as well, are very much like Dwight and I, and they really focus on AI as part of their jobs, as well as what's going to happen in life and how we're going to leverage it in life. So, Yves, let's transition to the topic for the day, which is career decisions and utilizing AI as being a great methodology for career decisions. So let's first go in and dive in and talk about it. I mean, we've been using the web to do a lot of Google searches about AI, about careers, and trying to find our passions and maybe using our skills and be developing even other skills. What's different, what's new, and what's happening in the world of this that's really helping AI be a part of this?
Yeah, and before even starting to specifically think about AI, I think what has been also interesting to see in the world of career growth, you see flourishing in your job, is the two different views that lately emerged. One view has been what historically has been out there is your career. How can you find your career? You see, and it's really the theory of fit. You see, and that's what all those assessments have been around in terms of saying, hey, do you personally fit or your values, etc. And that has been a state of mind. But lately, one thing that has been also emerging is the fact that a great career can be cultivated. And that's more of the kind of the theory of development, meaning that you can be in a great fit career, but if you don't do what is required, you won't have a great career. You see what I mean? So kind of the two approaches of, you see, what really is at the forefront right now. So that's really an interesting first distinctions to make, and I think the AI can be useful for both. So not only to discover, hey, this is you see the best fit for me. And the analogy that I often like to take with that, and I'm sure it will make you smile, is when you find your spouse or your significant others, right? If you just saying, hey, here are all the criteria and I'm done for the rest of my life, it will be a disaster.
Or at least the next 10 years. Yeah,
exactly.
Well,
potentially an expensive disaster at
a
one
very
point,
expensive disaster. Both of us, Dwight and I, have visited a couple of times. But Yves, let me deconstruct something you said, because one of the ways in which we try and figure out whether we're actually staying on top of our careers, right, with the skills that we need and the education we need, we used to use mentors. We used to use people around us, especially bosses that we loved, as being the source of what do I and don't I have, and where am I going next? Do you see that the AI is not only more accurate at this, but it's better than that in a, I guess you could say, in a general sense?
Well, one thing that we've seen on how people use AI versus interacting with, especially bosses, where there is still a relationship, right, going on, and the dependencies as well. The fact that when people interact with AI, they will ask the questions very directly. There is no coding. There is no you won't go to your boss and the first thing you will say, "Hey, am I underpaid?" You see what I mean? You try to approach it and ask it a bit differently. And here what we've seen is that to that extent, to answer your questions directly, when people go straight to the journal, you see, without that helps to have better and in-depth conversations. The other thing as well, AI is often better than even counselors or bosses, is that they have knowledge that are nearly infinite. Like today, we estimate that there is about 75,000 job titles. So who on the earth know all of that? You see, nobody, right?
Nobody.
AI does.
Yeah.
AI does have, especially a large language model, do have that. So in terms of considering future for you, for instance, that's one where there is a leg up. I think where humans, and there is still some interactions are better, is understanding how people behave on the jobs, etc., where obviously AI does not always have an, you see, especially indirect or implicit read on what people are doing.
It would be great if they had actually made up some stuff too. Like, I know that AI does lie sometimes, but it would be nice if they told me that you're doing fine, you've got the right skills, you're going great, because I get a lot of feedback otherwise from a lot of different places.
Yeah, you gotta have a champion kind of behind you.
Well, you know,
Doesn't
maybe
matter
I
if
need
it's a
to
human or not.
Yeah, maybe I need to create positive.ai, which just tells you the good stuff.
Yeah,
I think we've got a new company in the making.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
All it does is support you in everything you want.
Right.
So you talked about the second piece of that, though, right? Which is, so one is getting an understanding about what kind of job and what skills you need. And the second part you mentioned that AI helps with is the figuring out where you can go, right?
Yeah, and the model that is have been around. You may have heard about it, and I think it's useful as a structurally thinking about it and conceptually thinking about it. Is the Ikigai model? It's a Japanese word, Ikigai, and you may have seen those force sphere or circles. You see, saying, and I think it does help people to think through those. And coming from salary.com, you can be happy that one of them is paid, you know, is am I paid fairly? Which is you see, valid concern. But that's not the end of the deal. You see, in any career, that's for sure an important element, but there are three others that are probably worth mentioning and for people to I would say explore when they are considering a career change or a career evolution. So one of them is, am I good at what I do? You see? And obviously, this is going through either feedback from your managers or others, etc. So it's important to get feedback on that, and it's also better for your future. You see, in terms of you will only find a better job if you are good at what you do. So that's the second one. The third one, which will influence the other one, obviously, is, do I love what I do? Because if you love what you do, you will become better, and it's kind of a self, you see,
fulfilling,
reinforcing loop. And the fourth one, which is also very important, especially in the long term, and they typically categorize that is what the world needs. And I see this in terms of, am I doing something that is useful to the world and that gives me meaning? And that's something which all of us obviously want. It's part of being human, you see, is that we need to fit into the larger puzzle. And it's also motivate us if we think we're adding value to the world. So in terms of, to answer your questions, helping to find, because it's become quickly complex, right? If you think about those four categories, and then thinking more, and that's what I've been thinking and working on is what am I good at? AI has been very good at going at the task level. So starting to think at the task level, what am I good at? Not in general, but specifically at one task. And then where AI can even help you, it's just to say, hey, that's good. You're good at that task. You like that task. But is this task about to be automated? You see, and that's what we've seen going on. And so you start to enter all of those things in the equation, which you see your brain probably do consciously, but where you're going to have, you see, support helping thinking about that. It's a very worthwhile endeavor.
Utilize it as crystal ball, essentially.
Well, it's more than crystal ball, right? There are some, like Anthropic has been doing some analysis on how AI is used for which task, how often, and consequently looking at at the task of what will be replaced, and then they extrapolate as well in terms of professions. So that's why, for instance, obviously software engineers that are the closest to the technology sees the most impact currently, where instead of you see programming traditionally, today, I mean, companies like Google and others, they are more than half of their code that is generated by AI and not by people. So that needs to come into your equations. And what we've seen, which is maybe an interesting anecdote that I came across as I've been working on this lately, is an illustrator. It's actually a neighbor. She's an illustrator, very gifted, but that has been learning along the years just to you see make illustrations with pen and paper, digital tools, etc. And then over a year ago, when she saw Dali, Journey, those image generation tools, she just went into a negative speed. And she just said, everything that I learned, she was early career, but she probably did it for the last 10 years. So you see, improving her, etc. She just said, that's it. She just said, I'm done. Now people that can just put a few prompts together will do it as good as this job as I spent so many years to do. And the challenge that she faced is, what can I do now that can reinvent myself into a new generation? And, I mean, it's something that she didn't do too well. And the approach actually, she took a yellow notepad and she just said, what do I like to do? And that AI will not replace. And guess what job she came back with?
Cartooning.
Say again?
Illustration.
Dwight?
I'm going to go with industrial worker.
Actually, she just said, I love training dogs. AI will not replace dog trainer. So become dog trainer. The problem, what she didn't think through is, after 2 months, she just realized that my salary is a third of what I used to do.
Right, exactly.
Decisions.
What
she really should be taken into account is, what are transferable skills that can be reused to go into a new career. And so that's what we're facing today, is that a lot of people will be experiencing this type of changes and necessary changes in their careers. And short of becoming the, super, like we say today, that is enhancing their illustrations with tools, etc. Instead of having 10 of those, have one of those. It's probably a lot of reductions there. They will need to reinvent themselves, and that's one of the use cases, obviously.
Well, first of all, I hope you're wrong, because my daughter, my kid is graduating next year in cartooning. So hopefully that's not true. And I've tried using DALL-E, and I've tried using some of the other AI tools, and Yves, it does take a lot of skill to be able to tell it to do the things you're telling it to do from a commercial perspective. I mean, anybody can produce an image, but to get it sold, like an illustrator or a cartoonist needs to, they need to invest a lot of skill and time into it. So, and the thing that Dwight and I talk about a lot, sorry, Dwight, I'll let you go in a second, just 1 second. The thing we talk about a lot is Dwight's now footer on his email, which is
AI will not replace people. People who know AI will replace people.
So we talk about that a lot. Yeah, that's definitely that's for sure. You still need something behind it. That will do. But I think there is. I don't know if you saw the CEO of Anthropic coming with during an interview yesterday or the day before, where he was using the terms white collar jobs, saying that we are too much avoiding the discussion because I think they're foreseeing a 10 to 20% unemployment in some of those professions in the short term. And I think there is always the discussions about, you see, you can essentially augment your capabilities with AI tools, and I 100% agree on that. I'm the first one to use those, etc.
Sure.
But at the same time, we need to realize that the augmentations of someone will mean that you don't need as many of me to do the same job. And there are a number of articles that show that a tech company here, what they did, they had 60 you see, writers for stories, marketing stuff, etc. In a matter of 18 months, they reduced it to one. To one that use obviously all the technology out there. So that means that you have 59 of the others that needs to reinvent themselves. And they can probably in the short term become writer in another company. But that's not a long-term strategy. And that's why I think we need to be realistic. And I don't like to, you see, just say, hey, it's bad news. I think there's the opposite, the possibility now, because as you know, the engagement numbers of workers is so bad. Only a third of the workers are really engaged. I see this as an opportunity for people really asking themselves, what do I like to do? What is my career all about? And then to reinvent themselves during being pushed by technology to recreate something. And I think that's really the change that is about to happen, where AI will not only displace but can help to reposition yourself in the new economy. And the only challenge that I see right now is that if you compare that, for instance, to the agricultural changes that happened 2 centuries ago, where 90%, over 90% of the populations were working in fields and in agriculture. Now it's 3%. So what does the other 87% were doing? They're not unemployed. But at that time, we didn't have, I don't know, yoga and teachers or therapists, or all of those new professions just emerged. And I think it took a number of generations to happen. Here, the impact of AI will probably take 10 years. You see, in 10 years, the world will be dramatically different from what it is today. And so, pressure.
If it takes that long.
Say again?
If it takes that long.
Yeah,
for sure.
Probably shorter. Yeah.
And so the challenge for the listener here is just to first face the reality, and for sure they can become the super worker and know all of those technology. But for those professions where you see it will change dramatically, they need to also think about, hey, what are the alternatives, especially in light of saying, hey, where can I even flourish more, and see that as an opportunity.
Right. Well, I think one of the things that has to be considered with this is that so often when we talk about AI and what impact it's going to have, ends up being an either-or proposition. So you take the example of your illustrator friend, and you know it's okay, AI is going to replace you. Well, is it really? Or is it going to shift what you do? So really kind of taking a step back and evaluating, okay, let's say these tasks will be automated, but if I still want to stay in the field of illustration, are there other areas that won't be taken over by AI or by AI? And I think that's what I hear so often when I'm talking with people. People are like, oh, it's going to replace us. Well, no, it's gonna shift. I did a white paper on the impact of AI on customer service representatives. And essentially, everyone's saying there will be no more customer service reps. And I say that's totally incorrect, because you are going to replace your lower level customer service reps, because bots can take over a lot of what they do, but you're still going to need a human being that's working at a higher level and has the empathy and those things that AI will never have. And so that's where, as people are looking at this, it's kind of like, let's pump the brakes a little bit and figure out still figure out what do you want to do, and can you get that within your current job?
Hey, Dwight, you know how I
will all of
know?
that be taken over?
Do you know how I know we'll never replace customer service agents? When people get angry, when humans get angry, and they make a phone call to customer service, and they're barely intelligible, speaking the way they speak today, there is no way a customer service bot is going to be able to understand and decode exactly what the intent is of some angry person calling them. Now, if this is agentic and you have one bot calling another bot without emotion, maybe. But that means I have to train my bot to call that customer service representative bot and have a more rational conversation, because my bot, the David Turecksy bot, translates all of my emotion into facts and into logic. Because
and you see, I'm not in disagreement that there is for sure frontier kind of jobs there that will remain. But I think we need to also be transparent that some professions will be heavily impacted, and that we need to act on that. But again, I see that as an opportunity, because people now can stand back. And even it may take some time, because I spoke with a gentleman that was way back when, you see, 25 years ago, he was working in New York in a big bank, and what you may see as a great job because he had a great salary, etc. But he was miserable. And it took him, and then he went to a counselor. And it took him, you see, a number of discussions with this counselor to unpack all the issues, etc. And then that led him to actually start a company, that he actually sold recently for $1 billion. So he did not only find, and during those 20 years that he built that company, he really enjoyed the ride, etc., etc. But it took some, discovery, etc. And that obviously today, counselors are a great help, but there is less than 10% of the people that use counselors. So I think opening up to AI, companions could obviously enlarge that. And if we look at the Gallup data saying 1/3 of the populations of the workforce is engaged, and turning that around and saying 2/3 are engaged and 1/3 is not. So much greater, because then so much more people are flourishing, are happier, etc. And I see really the opportunity of AI replacement is also AI enhancements of jobs that you and I are doing.
So one of the fascinating things that you're talking about is inertia, right? Inertia is a huge part of employee engagement, and right now there's this vector coming in at us called artificial intelligence into the workforce, and the inertia isn't there yet, but it's starting, because people are starting to see it coming at them, and they're saying, oh my gosh, I got to get out of the way, or I have to adopt it and make it go with me. And so that inertia is what you're talking about. It moves them to do something, kind of like the people who used to run stables before there were cars, or the carriage makers who became automobile dealers, or who became automobile manufacturers, or who merged a few thousand times and became General Motors. Though that inertia has to be there in order for those people to decide, I want to do something that I love more than the shit, pardon the expression, the crap I do today that I hate. That inertia isn't enough, because they're getting paid what they're getting paid, to your point before. And so this inertia is coming in, and it's going to move them, hopefully, in a positive direction to get to a place where they like something, and it's going to be more modern, maybe have AI as part of it, but it's going to move them. That's what you're saying, right? Is they need that push in the back.
And it will come, right? Because as CEOs of companies, and you've seen all the surveys, I mean, those people, if they can use someone that works 24/7 and doesn't go on strike and does as good as a job, the computation is easy, right? So
Sure.
the thing is coming, but I would say only don't look at it as, hey, this is a train that will run over me. It's actually importantly, like you just phrased it, hey, it's a gentle push for me to invent, and also the incredible things that we will be able to do right now, to have a doctor in your pocket, to do using all of those limitations that are open and ripe for thanks to LLM. I think that's where the excitement is really is.
Well, when AI gets a little bit more mature, doesn't lie about things, doesn't make up studies, doesn't make up information, because today it's still doing a lot of that, right? It's hallucinating. It's
imperfect at this point.
It's not, right? It's imperfect, right? Exactly. And so there's a little bit of more maturity on the AI technology side, at least. And we actually just saw a deal, I think it was from the New York Times. The New York Times just licensed its entire catalog to one of the AI vendors, to now have those facts brought into the models. So there's now more of an emergence of facts. And of course, there are some people who say those are alternative facts. So some people say those are real facts. We can argue that. But it's still evolving. So it's a moving target at the moment, right?
And the hallucinations is part of the equation right now. I think there is more. You see, reasoning that is coming and thing the numbers there. But at the end of the day, if you are a human and have those resources at your disposal, and obviously you don't have to just give them away as such, there is still a role for you to use them. Is definitely very it will be, and it is already very important.
Well, Yves, we could talk about this all day, but unfortunately, it's only a half-hour show on Fridays. So that people can go back to their work, so they can quit for the weekend. Yves, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And we could talk to you about this all day because you're so insightful about it. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Dwight, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anytime we can talk AI, we are all over it.
We're there.
We'll have you back.
Yeah, and so everybody go to WOPA.ai, which is Yves' company. And also, don't forget about character.ai, which is where Yves was speaking to Aristotle, which I find absolutely fascinating. And I'm going to try it too at some point. But thank you again all for listening. Take care and stay safe.